Andres de AA Sports here with another video covering the Mexico national team and the big news that was confirmed on Sunday after winning their preparation friendly game versus Australia 1-0 on Saturday at the Rose Bowl Stadium in Los Angeles. The very next day on Sunday, just one day before FIFA's roster deadline for the World Cup, the Mexico National Football Team announced and revealed their final 26-player roster for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. That's right. These are the 26 players who have been called up and will be playing for and representing Mexico in the 2026 World Cup. A very interesting roster with a lot to talk about and things to watch during the tournament. With that, in this video, I will be giving my reaction and analysis of Mexico's final roster for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Starting off with the goalkeepers, the three goalkeepers for Mexico in the World Cup will be Raúl Tala Rangel, Carlos Acevedo, and Guillermo Ochoa, who will be competing in his sixth and final FIFA World Cup tournament. No surprises here, as these were the three goalkeepers that were expected to be in the roster for Mexico, given that after Malagon's injury ruled him out for the World Cup, head coach Javier Aguirre has always called up these three goalkeepers. And I am very happy to see that Guillermo Ochoa has been called up one more time. With his inclusion in the roster, Memo Ochoa will be one of just 3 players to have competed in 6 FIFA World Cups, along with Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. It is uncertain if he will be the starting goalkeeper in the tournament. While he had a very good performance versus Australia, Tala Rangel does seem to be the main candidate to be the starting goalkeeper in the World Cup. And it's possible that the team's final preparation game versus Serbia could decide which of the two will be the starter between Rangel and Memo Ochoa. Regardless, I am happy to see that he was included one final time in a historic milestone for his career, and that the team will have his leadership presence during the tournament. And if he is not the starting goalkeeper for Mexico, hopefully the team dominates in their first 2 games. And with that, we get to see Ochoa hopefully play in the final group stage game, playing for Mexico one final time in a World Cup at Estadio Azteca. But overall, the goalkeeper part of the roster is solid and is exactly what we expected it to be with the 3 goalkeepers that are included. Overall, it's good. Moving on to the defenders, Aguirre has called up 6 defenders. They are Johan Vázquez, Cesar Montes, Israel Reyes, Jorge Sanchez, Jesus Gallardo, and Mateo Chavez. Starting with the 2 left backs included in the roster, Mateo Chavez and Jesus Gallardo. No surprise here. These are the 2 best left backs Mexico has right now, and they are the 2 left backs Aguirre has preferred, always calling them up. Mateo Chavez had a great season in Europe, winning the Dutch KNVB Cup with AZ Alkmaar, and Jesus Gallardo, who has been solid for Toluca, achieving the Liga MX Bicampeonato with them. And while Gallardo missed the final amid being called up for Mexico, he had a really good Conca Champions campaign that helped the team get to the final. Overall, I think Aguirre made the correct call-ups here, as these are the 2 best left backs for Mexico right now. Personally, I would prefer Mateo Chavez as the starting left back, as he is better on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. However, we will see what Aguirre decides, as it will all depend on how defensive he wants to be in the left back position. Johan Vázquez and Cesar Montes, not a debate. They are Mexico's 2 best center backs, and they are going to be the starting center backs in the World Cup. However, this is where the defensive part of the roster gets very interesting, because Israel Reyes and Jorge Sanchez are the only other defenders called up, which means that outside of Reyes, no other proper center backs have been included in the roster. This likely means Aguirre expects Montes and Vázquez to play the full 90 minutes, which is a fair analysis given they are Mexico's best center backs. However, in the worst case scenario where one of them gets injured, ojalá que no, hopefully not, but in that case, unless Israel Reyes will be that depth player on the roster, there isn't anyone else that can replace them except a defensive midfielder, which isn't ideal as Mexico has not had success with playing a defensive midfielder as a center back. With this, I am very surprised Everardo Lopez was not included in the roster, as this leaves the defense rather thin, especially in the center back positions. And the same thing for the right back position, as Jorge Sanchez is the only true right back called up. Does this mean he is going to be the starting right back, or is Israel Reyes going to be the starting right back? And that's a possibility given how well Israel Reyes has been playing. But if he chooses Jorge Sanchez to be the main right back, does Javier Aguirre really prefer him to that extent now that Rodrigo Huescas has been ruled out due to not being fully recovered from his knee injury? Personally, after his performances versus Australia, I disagree with his inclusion given he has been so inconsistent for Mexico. I would have liked to see Julian Araujo and Richard Ledesma be called up instead of Sanchez, but neither were included. While Araujo being left off the World Cup team likely means he was not fully recovered from his hamstring injury, given Richard Ledesma has been great for Chivas all year, it makes you wonder, what did Aguirre not see, or what did he see but not like that we didn't? Overall, I think Aguirre got the majority of the defensive part of the roster correct. However, it's very thin with not a lot of depth, leaving a lot of questions that will hopefully be answered in the team's final preparation friendly game versus Serbia. Moving on to the midfielders, the 8 midfielders Javier Aguirre has called up for the World Cup are Edson Alvarez, Eric Lira, Álvaro Fidalgo, Ober Vargas, Orbelín Pineda, Luis Romo surprisingly, Luis Chavez, Brian Gutierrez, Gilberto Mora. The 17-year-old makes the roster very good. First, I think I have to start off with, I think we all have to start off with celebrating the one player that is finally being excluded from the roster and the Mexico national team, Tronco Rodriguez. Yes! Yeah! Yes, yes, yes. Thank God that while he was part of the preliminary roster, the reports in early May were true, and Javier Aguirre and the Mexico national team have excluded Tronco Rodriguez from the team for good. His exclusion alone makes this roster 10 times better than the roster for the last World Cup and the 2024 Copa America. He was the worst player on the team who could never maintain ball possession. He was horrible defensively. 68 games for Mexico, 0 goals, and countless moments where he was the worst player on the field. He will easily go down in history as the worst player in Mexico national team history, where every time he played, it was practically 11 versus 10 or 12 versus 10 because he would be so bad to where it would help the opposing team. I am very happy to see him finally being excluded from the Mexico national team, and after seeing him get booed in Estadio Azteca in March, I imagine all Mexico fans feel the same way. Thank you for nothing, Tronco Rodriguez. Chinga tu madre. You will not be missed by any Mexico fans or the Mexico national team, which is much better without him on the team. Marcel Ruiz, he's also been left off the roster. Marcel Ruiz has been cut from the Mexico national team for this World Cup amid his injury, and I think this was 100% the correct decision. Ruiz, he is injured and has been playing through a torn ACL, and while I respect the motivation and determination, the risks are too dangerous and not worth it. If he was not injured, he would absolutely be part of this team, but at the end of the day, the health, safety, and well-being of the players is the first and biggest priority, and calling him up with a torn ACL would just be football malpractice at its worst and most dangerous. According to reports, he will finally get the surgery he needs during the summer. That's good and about time, thank goodness. I am glad that both Toluca and Javier Aguirre talked him out of trying to force it. It's a shame he got injured, but hopefully he has a full and quick recovery and we see him return with good form and be part of the team in the next cycle. Now looking at the roster and the 8 midfielders included, I think Aguirre got just about all of the midfield part of the roster correct. Eric Lira is in great form right now. Alvaro Fidalgo qualified for the UEFA Champions League with Real Betis. Ober Vargas has been really good in the games he has played for Atletico Madrid. Edson Alvarez, while he is just coming back from injury, is now able to play and hopefully he will return to form by the start of the World Cup. Orbelin Pineda also had a really good year in Europe, winning his second Greek Super League title with AEK Athens. Brian Gutierrez has made an instant positive impact offensively and could potentially start in the tournament. Same thing for 17-year-old Gilberto Mora, who is arguably Mexico's best prospect right now. The only player I am surprised was included is Luis Romo, and I don't agree with this decision to include him for the World Cup. For most of this 4-year cycle after the 2023 CONCACAF Gold Cup, he has been non-existent at best and massively underperformed in Mexico's 2 preparation games before the final roster deadline, looking like a tractor on the field and unable to keep up with the pace of play. I don't know what Aguirre saw in him that we didn't. Given Montes and Vasquez are the only 2 center backs on the roster, I am thinking that Aguirre might play him as a substitute center back, but I really hope not, as again, Mexico has experimented with this before and overall it hasn't worked out. We'll see, but I would not have included him, and if I were Aguirre, I would only play him in a garbage time scenario if Mexico is up by 2 goals with 5 minutes left, just to close out a winning result for the team. But outside of Luis Romo, overall, I think the rest of the players called up I think were the correct call-ups. I really like the rest of the roster. These are Mexico's best midfielders with a lot of depth in the attacking and defensive midfield positions, as well as the 8th position of central midfielder with Fidalgo and Orbelin. Overall, a good midfield roster for Mexico that is the best the team could possibly have in the tournament. And finally, for the offensive front, Raúl Jiménez, Julián Quiñones, Alexis Vega, Piojo Alvarado, okay. Santiago Jiménez, Santi, all right. Hormiga González, good. Cesar Huerta, and surprisingly, Memote Martinez. I am not going to lie, I have very mixed feelings and opinions about this part of the roster. The biggest problem here is the wingers, where outside of Chino Huerta, there is little to no offensive creativity. Alexis Vega has failed to replicate the good form he has at the club level with the national team, and the only reason why Piojo Alvarado has been called up and included is simply because Aguirre likes how he plays defensively. That is all. It's because he's good defensively. This shows that under Aguirre, he values more what a player can contribute defensively than anything they can contribute offensively. And this is for better and for worse. It's good because it's part of why Mexico has only conceded 1 goal in 2026 so far. But given the defense is already the strongest part of the team, calling up a player like Piojo Alvarado is also counterproductive and hurts the team because he has no ability to take on defenders one-on-one and does not provide any offensive creativity, which is why Mexico has been struggling to create scoring chances despite often having a lot of ball possession. Fortunately, Brian Gutierrez and Gilberto Mora are very creative attacking midfielders that can also push up and play as wingers, but I would have rather called up Jorge Rubalcaba or Alexis Dominguez instead of Vega and Piojo, and I definitely would have liked to see Oziel Herrera be given a chance in the cycle and called up as well. Hopefully, these players will be part of the next cycle because at this point, the Mexico national team does seem to be better without Vega and Piojo. But given this is the World Cup, hopefully they prove me and all Mexico fans wrong. As for the strikers, the one notable player not included is Germán Berterame, and while he has improved in form with Inter Miami in the MLS, I think this was the right call by Javier Aguirre. In his 9 games for Mexico so far, while he has scored 2 goals versus Ecuador and Bolivia, outside of that, it was really hard not to notice how he clearly didn't fit well within Javier Aguirre's system. Most of the time, Aguirre was playing him outside of his normal position as a winger when he's a striker, and it never worked. With Berterame not fitting well in Vasco Aguirre's system and play style, we'll see if maybe he plays his way onto the team in the next cycle under Rafael Marquez, but right now, I think his exclusion was the correct decision. Of the strikers included, the one that I disagree on being included and called up is Memote Martinez. Yes, he scored in the game versus Ghana, which is probably what convinced Aguirre. However, in the very next game versus Australia, he looked like just another body on the field where he was non-existent, including on set plays, which he apparently is supposed to be good on, and why Aguirre called him up. Again, I really don't see Memote Martinez as a short-term or long-term player or solution, especially with the other strikers included in the final roster. With that, the final 4 strikers included in the roster are Raul, Julian Quiñones, Santi, and Hormiga Gonzalez. I am glad that Aguirre didn't snub and exclude any of these 4 players. Like I said in my preliminary roster video, it would have sent a bad and discouraging message if any of these 4 players were excluded from the World Cup roster for Mexico. These are the 4 best strikers Mexico has. I imagine Raul Jimenez and Julian Quiñones will be starting in the tournament, with Santi Jimenez and Hormiga Gonzalez getting significant playing time, entering the game as substitutes. Good to see these 4 players included for the World Cup. There you have it, my reactions and analysis of Mexico's final 26-player roster for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Overall, I give this roster that Javier Aguirre has established an A- grade. Are there some players that I disagree with being included and called up? Yes. Are there a couple players that were not included that I think should have been included? In players like Osiel Herrera, Richard Ledesma, Elias Montiel instead of Romo, in my opinion? Yes. But outside of that, I think Aguirre did well in including all of the other best players in Mexico's player pool. The 3 best goalkeepers, as expected, are in the roster. The center backs and left backs have been, the best center backs and left backs have been called up and are included. The midfield part of the roster looks great, with just about all of the best midfielders, including young stars like Ober Vargas, Brian Gutierrez, and 17-year-old Gilberto Mora. And then in the offensive front, we know Piojo and Vega will at least be good defensively if they can't contribute offensively. Raul Jimenez, my personal favorite player and Mexico's best striker right now, will be the starter, and great to see Quiñones, Hormiga, Santi, and Cesar Huerta included in the roster with him. This is Mexico's 2026 FIFA World Cup roster. No matter what we agree or disagree with at this point, Mexico fans have to be optimistic. They have to have hope and believe in this team, because there is only one Selección Nacional de México. With that, vamos México en la Copa Mundial de FIFA 2026. The Mexico national team's first game in the 2026 FIFA World Cup will be the opening game of the tournament versus South Africa on June 11th in Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, where hopefully Mexico will get a winning result at home in front of their fans as one of the host countries. Andres, de AA Sports. Let me know your opinions on the Mexico national team's 2026 FIFA World Cup roster in the comments section. That will be all for this video and my analysis of the Mexico national team's 2026 FIFA World Cup roster. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel and help it grow. Stay tuned in for more Mexico National Football Team and Mexico Women's National Football Team content on the channel, especially with the World Cup less than 2 weeks away now. That will be all for this video. Thanks for watching and listening. Viva Mexico!